All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, my guest today is Alla, and Alla was born and raised in Russia. She worked as a registered nurse for 13 years in Russia, but guess what? She came to America in 2003, and she brought her son and mom a year later with her. And so she's a little different than most people I'd have on this type of podcast, but I'm excited because it has a big parallel to what business and life is about, and we'll talk about that. Alla and I've been able to spend some time together in the past, and we'll talk about what that means. She's currently a real estate broker and also a student at Quantum University of Honolulu. Very nice, Honolulu. Going for a PhD in integrative medicine. Ooh, very fancy.
Hmm.
Alla, welcome to the show. Good to see you. We're actually on video, everyone, so I'm seeing her for the first time in, I guess, maybe a month and a half now. We were in Hawaii together for a conference. So, Alla, it's good to see you. How are things?
Good, good. How are you, Ryan?
I'm
Nice to
good,
see you
thank you.
too.
All right, so Alla, talk to us a little bit, and I'll give some background here. Alla and I asked some people that we went to a conference with who would want to be on the podcast, and she said she would, but she didn't know if it would be a good story or what she would talk about. And so, she shared her admiration for some of the things I'm doing. And what's funny is I shared that I have as much, probably more admiration for the things that she's done in her life, meaning she moved from a place that she didn't like to live and came to the US. So that's why I wanted to have her on and how that parallels to the business. And I'm looking at Alla when I'm saying this to her because I think it's important for her as well. Is she set a goal and a destination and a journey, and she didn't stop till she made it there, no matter how hard the trials were between where she started and where she ended. She set out a really, really big goal that probably most, if not all, people listening to this podcast right now haven't done. And there's a ton of admiration coming from me and a bunch of other people for that journey that you made. And I'm excited to have you on here and talk about that because you set a kick ass goal and you accomplished it. So that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to hear a little bit about her and her story. So, Alla, why don't you walk us through a little bit about, set the picture, set the stage of what life in Russia was like, why you left, what you were leaving, and what your hopes were coming to America.
Well, Russian life, we have two different types of people in Russia. The ones are pretty much very poor and they basically barely have money on food and clothes. And part of Russia with people, most of them are in Moscow, who have their hands on oil or some other stuff that belongs to the whole country. And they kind of get rich by doing that, which not very fair, but that's what it is. And for those who are not so fortunate, it's hard to survive. So that's how my life was pretty much in Russia. I was born in a family of teachers. My grandpa, my grandma, my mom, they were all teachers. So the salaries, teacher salaries in Russia, it's like the lowest. And so money struggle was always very, very sharp in me because I would see other kids having things and, having better food, better clothes. And I was always thinking, why is it that we cannot afford it? Why can't we have that all? So that was probably the money struggle was first because that's urge of wanting more, and especially when I got married and I had son, and I was more and more thinking I want to give my son more than I had. I want him to have uh the choice actually that I didn't have, to choice to do what he wants to do or to have what he wants to have. Plus things that in Russia we still have military as a mandatory thing for boys only. Thankfully girls are not going, but 18 years old boys would all be drafted to Russia, to army sorry, unless they have enough money to buy themselves out of it, which in my case we didn't have that. So with every year that my son would get older, I would think that would be just in my mind thinking I don't want him to go to the army because I see boys coming back with all kind of damages, emotional and physical. And my only son, I didn't want him to go there. So that was also a very big thing that drove me through the whole struggle to come to America. And I didn't know that America would be the point to come. I thought I would be somewhere closer to Russia. So my first choice was Italy. But coming to Italy as a tourist, I realized very quickly that there is no way you can legally stay in the country and bring your family over. Their immigration law is just not that welcoming. So I had to go back. And when I came back, that's when I started just doing research on which country in the world is easier to immigrate so people can stay legally and bring their families. And United States were the one. And when I heard from the lady who told me, well, then you should just go to America. And to me, it was, what? It's way too far. I didn't think I would go there, but I had to. It's like there was no way back anymore. My son was 12, so in 4 years, sorry, 6 years, he would be drafted to the army. So I needed to do something. And for my own life, I went through divorce and being a single mom, working as a nurse. Again, salaries are very, very little in Russia. It's medical and teachers. Those were the lowest paid professions. I remember when I was leaving Russia, I made $50 a month. That was my salary. It's like hard to believe. I know nobody believes me,
Wow.
like, nah, but that's what it was in 2003 when I was leaving the country. So I applied for a visa. I didn't know I would get it. I had to do all kinds of tricky stuff to get my visa, to let the government to, you know, let me in the country so I can stay. And whatever I had to do, it's done, and I think it's done for good. And when I came here with no money and no language and going through all my friends and family saying, "What are you doing? Are you crazy? What are you going to do there without money, with not speaking even the language that they speak?" And, "Oh, you're bad mom, you leaving your son behind." That was the big one. Everyone will just point fingers. "Oh, she's a bad mom. She's leaving, not, she's divorced and now she's leaving her son. Like, I don't need my son." But the only two people who supported me through the whole way, through the whole journey, was my mom and my son, actually, because my mom said, go do whatever you need to do, because she knew I'm not going to leave them behind. As soon as I'm established, I'll bring him over. And my baby was 12 and stayed with my mom for 6 months. So I thought I was lucky to be able to bring him. In 6 months, he was already in United States, also had to do all kinds of stuff and paperwork. So I got him a student visa to come to Boston to learn English, supposedly. And of course, after that, I brought him to LA and he stayed. And 6 months later, my mom came. So within a year, I was able to bring my family, my closest ones who wanted to be with me here. In the meantime, working full time, going to school, and to remind you, not having a social security or any kind of papers. It took me 4 years to get actually legalized paper or get my green card. So it's kind of all together. But again, when you have that vision and you know it's going to be better, it's just the trust was there, and the belief that it's going to be better here. I just have to go through that and then it's going to be better. So that belief, that's what just helped me through everything. And going back and forth to immigrations, to the lawyers, the judges, to get us established as we applied for political asylum. So it was a I can write a book just about that.
So there's
uh,
so many things about your story that's so awesome. Like, if the audience stops for a second and would raise their hand, like, how many people did things that their family thought was crazy, right? How many people picked a goal and they went out into this darkness of the unknown, the US, where you didn't speak English, where you didn't know anybody, where you didn't have a job, because you knew that was your vision and your mission. If you ask business owners or people, how many tasks or things do you not do because you're scared, you don't know what it looks like or you don't feel like you're equipped. It's the exact same thing. And so the reason I've thought it was super powerful to have you on the show is you did those things in your personal life to make yourself better, and people have those exact same challenges. They're just not leaving Russia. They're leaving their job. They're leaving their bad business. They're trying to make their business better, and they have to go into a place of unknown that's their lofty goal and just sort of go all in like you did. And so that your story's, I heard it over a month ago or maybe a month and a half at this point in time in Hawaii, and it's moving. It's really powerful, and I know you don't appreciate exactly how powerful and awesome it is, probably as much as I do. Like, I could never do in my mind what you did, and you did it with grace. And so thanks for being on the show and sharing the story. That's really awesome. So I
You're
want to
very
talk.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about your challenges. So you landed here in the U.S. You didn't have anything pre-lined up, and you had to figure out what was important, where to go, what to do. How did you assess in your head what was the most important thing to do, and how did you prioritize of all the things that have to happen once you get here? Like, how did you really find out what was the most important thing for you to do in that moment every single day?
It was very easy because when you come with no money, it's like the first thing for me is how can I start making the most money in the fastest way so I can, first of all, buy myself a car so I can actually go around. And my second thing was I would start uh, saving money to bring my son over because that was expensive for to apply for a visa for him, to even to buy a ticket from Moscow to New York or LA. There was flights, straight flights there. It was very expensive. So to me, it was okay. I have to find a job that brings me the most money the quickest way. So that was my priority. And when I started talking to there's big Russian community. I figured, and I knew one girl. She came here 6 months earlier from my town, and her English was a little bit better. Her name was Julia. So she helped me with kind of like, okay, where should I go and what should I do? And I realized that being uh okay, there was something else before that because I flew to New York. That was the only available flight. And in New York, the Russian speaking agency, which was I think Lithuanian people, they it's kind of like slavery basically. They take you from the plane, they put us on a bus, and for 14 more hours I was on a bus to Detroit. And in Detroit they put us, like, there was 6 women in 2 bedroom apartment, like sleep, just basically sleeping there. And in the morning they would come with the bus, take him to the hotels to clean the hotel. So they're pretty much running the cleaning business. They took all the passports of those women. So basically they could not do anything because they didn't speak the language. And they would just use them as a work, and they would give them very little money. They would take off for their living, for their food. So pretty much women had only a little bit of money. And when I got to that place and I had a whole night to talk to those women because we came very late, I was so tired, but I knew I gotta like figure out very quickly where am I. I didn't like Detroit at all. It was even colder than in Russia in March. And when those ladies told me that they were there for a couple of years already and they took their passports and all that, and I said, there's no way. I came here to make money to bring my family. I'm not gonna be slaving here for other Russian people just because I don't know the language and I have nothing else to like to find. So I decided overnight that I'm leaving. Like next day, I knew I had to leave before those guys would come, because if they would come, then that's it, and they would just take my passport and put me in a bus to clean the hotels in Detroit. So that's when I called the only girl I knew in America, which was in LA. from my town, Julia, and I called her from one of the ladies' phones because I didn't even have the phone, and say, Julia, you have to help me. I'm in that situation. I really have to like do something to get myself out of here. So she was kind enough to buy me a ticket. Of course, I mean, as soon as I made my first money, I gave it back to her. She bought me a ticket to LA one way, and early in the morning, before those guys came, I came out and I asked for $50 for another lady who lived there because I knew that there was a taxi and I had to kind of get to airport somehow. So she was kind enough to give me $50, and it was, I don't know, it was just so funny and scary and exciting at the same time, because when I got out it was dark. The taxi stopped and those guys were just pulling up into the driveway, so they see me leaving and they coming out, where are you going, what do you think you're going to do, are you stupid, come with us, here you will be having job and having food. And I was kind of hiding behind the taxi driver, and I remember he was an Indian guy because he spoke with that Indian accent, and he didn't know what was going on. He was afraid because he thought they were going to shoot him or something because the guys were big. And I'm like, no, 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 I'm going to the airport. And I was talking Russian, of course. So I'm telling him, airport, airport, airport. I was repeating that to him so he can understand what to do. And they coming at us, and I'm saying, I'm not going with you, on Russian, of course. I'm not going with you. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. So basically, I just jumped in a taxi, and the taxi driver, all nervous, driving me to the airport. So that's how I escaped those people. But and as soon as I landed in LA, when I got out and I see the palm trees, I didn't even know how LA looked like. And when I saw the palm trees and I'm wearing that heavy Russian coat, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is heaven. This has got to be heaven because it's warm and it's palm trees and all that. So I waited for her in the airport for almost a whole day because she was working, and I arrived in the morning. And at the end of the day, when she came to pick me up with her friends, and I asked, oh, how is it the winter here? And she's like, this is the winter. And I said, wow, I am in heaven. So yeah, sorry for a long.
That's fine. That's great. I love it. So if I replayed that back, for you, setting your priority was really easy, right? You needed to make
Yeah.
money and you needed to find a safe place, basically. So that translates into clarity and focus, right? It was very clear what you needed to do, and you were very focused on doing that specific thing only, right? You weren't out um, making friends or whatever. You were focused on making money, getting in a safe place, finding a job, right? Like you made it very simple and basic and straightforward to do.
You know what? The big thing for me was freedom, because I really felt like my freedom is going to be violated if I stayed in Detroit with those women, because I didn't want to be a prisoner. That's, to me, if somebody's trying to take my freedom of choice, what I have to do, or my money, my passport, to take my passport, why? That's a free country. Why would you take my passport? So that thing really made me like, I became very angry. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be slaving. That's not why I came here. So yeah,
That's
freedom
fascinating.
and clarity that yes, I have to make more money than that. This way I will never bring my son over here. It was just obvious and logical kind of.
Yeah, what's funny is I think a lot of Americans would have the same thought about going to Detroit too. Detroit's not a very
I
well
know.
respected city. No offense to any
Yeah,
of my
that's right.
Detroit friends on the listening to the show. All right, well, I want to talk to you about something that I think is really important, and you had brought it up. You're new to the country, and just like a business owner, they have to bring new people into their business to hire, who to work with, to have vendors. You want the right people in your life to run a successful business. How did you make sure the people you brought into your life once you're in the US were the good people that you wanted in your life to help you succeed? I find these two to be very parallel things, and I'd be interested
Hmm.
to hear, like, how did you get people to help you, and what were the things you were looking for in people that you surrounded yourself with?
Through trial and error. Through, yeah. because you don't, well, especially when you don't speak the language, it's hard to understand. I really felt though that America, maybe I would say Californians, were very, very welcoming. Everybody were trying to help. Like I would try to explain with my hands what I wanted in a store or somewhere, and people would really try to listen and understand and be very willing to help. And teachers in the school where I started going, taking intensive course in English, Evans School in downtown LA, all the teachers and all the students, they were just so helpful. And I just, maybe when you are helping everybody that you can, you attract those people into your life too.
Mm.
So I would say they would come, and there were some people who lied. And I remember when my uh, son was already here and I really wanted to buy a house, and I didn't know how to do it, and I was just researching and asking, and there were, nothing against Armenians, but there were some Armenian guys who said, "Oh, we can help you to buy a house without Social Security because I didn't have one. Just give us $5,000. We'll set everything up." And innocent me, because they were friends of my girlfriends.
Mm.
I said, "Well, they're boyfriends of my girlfriends. Of course they're gonna help." So I just handed them $5,000 like that. And goodbye. No, I never seen them again, or my $5,000. So that's how you learn, right? You just, but you forgive yourself because mistakes are always made. You move forward. Yes, yeah, I made a mistake. It was stupid of me, but sometimes I'm still doing it just because I do trust people.
Yeah, well,
And
you know what? You when you're in positions, you have to trust people. Now, you might make mistakes, but for the one person that you trusted that took advantage of you, you trusted 7 or 8 other people that helped you get where you're at, right?
that's right.
And that, it's no different
Definitely,
in
definitely.
business. Like if you don't trust people and work with them and serve them and help them, for the one person that burns you, hopefully there's 7 or 8 or 10 or 15 that helped you out. And if you stop trying to get that help to avoid the one person that screwed you over, look at all the beauty you would have missed, right? By not
Yeah,
trying.
exactly.
Yeah. Good for you for recognizing that, forgiving yourself.
Yeah, and being in real estate business, I mean, there are so many agents there who just there for the money. They don't care about anything else. They're not serving their clients very well, and they're just sometimes, and they're not, they're neither smart or fair.
Yeah.
But again, there are so many people who are taking it personally. Every transaction is a personal thing for them. They want to do their best, they want to be perfect, and they want to serve. And I met guys like that too, and that's why my very good friend, she's a realtor and broker too, and she's like, "I'm not doing anything if I don't feel I can serve sincerely." And that's her way to do business, sincerely serving people to find their homes. That's the only way in any business. Be 100% in what you do, love it, and make others love it through you,
Right.
because they see the light in your eyes when you're talking about something you're passionate about.
Yeah, it's you're dead on. Service is the big part of how I operate too, but it's really fascinating. There are a lot of people that aren't. They're more interested in the dollar or making the dollar versus service. And I try not to judge them because maybe they just got here and maybe the only thing they care about is making money because that's the most important thing for them in that instance. So it's hard, you know, it's hard for me to be careful not to judge them, but I'm very much a
Yeah,
service. If it doesn't feel right, then I shouldn't probably be doing it, you know. If my mom would get mad at me for doing it, maybe I shouldn't be doing it.
that's right.
So let me
Well,
ask.
we
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
We're all learning to kind of feel what's right or what's not inside, because I believe your body and your soul always gave you that hint, like, oh, that didn't feel very good. I shouldn't been done it. So next time you just try not to do it. It's like a GPS system in your body, right? You do something and it feels good, and then you do something it doesn't feel good. So just most of the time try to do what feels good to you, because your heart will never lie. Your
That's right.
mind may.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with that. So I'm gonna ask you a couple of quick hitting questions. What's the one thing you would tell your younger self to do more of?
Just set the fear aside and go for it.
Hmm. Would you tell the older version of that story to yourself too? Still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's always
Yeah. Okay.
active.
I'm with you. What's the one thing you tell yourself to do less of?
Worry. Less worry. It's all temporary anyway. Everything is fleeting and passing. So what's the point of worrying? Just be happy and make the best out of it.
Hmm. I like that. How about a book recommendation? What book would you recommend to the audience? It could be on anything, but what would you recommend?
Well, my favorite spiritual teacher is Eckhart Tolle, and the stuff that he went through in his life is just fascinating for me. So when I had his book, The Power of Now, I was just reading it. I'm a slow reader. So to me, if I read one paragraph and then I would think about it and analyze it, and it just started making so much sense, the whole life turned around for me. So I would say read The Power of Now, but not as a regular book like that. Give it time, because as Eckhart Tolle says, the power of this book is not in words, it's in a space between the words.
Hmm.
So it's that stillness, it's that God, it's the universe that comes out of the energy that's in that book, not just words.
Wow.
So that to me, it's like, wow, you can just, so you don't have to really read it. You can just open it and look at those words and you would still get the message.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's great. I actually have never read that. I'm gonna put that on my list. I just wrote it down to take a look at it. That seems awesome. So that's it, Ala. We came to the sort of the end of the show. Thank you so much for sharing your story with the audience. I already knew it, but I'm so super glad you shared it. If anyone wants to reach out and connect with you and talk to you more about what you're up to or shoot the breeze or anything, where could people find you?
I'm developing my new website because I'm getting a PhD in integrative medicine, so it's going to be something new in my life. But for now, I mean, my email is very easy. It's abarova@gmail.com. It's a first letter of my first name, Ala, and then my last name, abarova@gmail.com.
Awesome, thanks. And I'll have that information on the website, focus53.com/70, your show 70, Ala. That brings us to the
Hmm.
end of the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week and enjoyed the show with Ala. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Aloha.